Dr. Sarah Chen never believed in parallel universes until the morning she woke up with a scar she'd never had before. It ran across her left palm, a perfectly healed line that hadn't existed when she went to bed. She stared at it in her bathroom mirror, tracing the ridge with her finger, trying to rationalize what she was seeing. Maybe she'd injured herself in her sleep, she thought, though that made no sense for such an old-looking scar. But when she checked her phone and saw a text conversation with her sister about a childhood accident she had no memory of, the rational explanations began to crumble. Over the following weeks, Sarah documented increasingly disturbing changes. Small things at first. Her coffee table was suddenly oak instead of glass. Her neighbor's dog was a different breed. Her favorite restaurant had a completely different menu. But then the changes became personal and impossible to ignore. Her colleague Marcus, who she'd known for 3 years as a quiet introvert, suddenly remembered years of adventures they'd apparently shared together. Speaking of inside jokes and trips Sarah had no recollection of, her apartment had photos on the wall of places she'd never visited, yet there she was in each image, smiling at a camera she'd never faced. Sarah was a neuroscientist specializing in sleep research, and her scientific mind demanded an explanation. She began monitoring her own sleep patterns with every device available, recording brain activity, eye movements, and even setting up cameras around her bedroom. What she discovered sent chills through her entire body. During REM sleep, at the exact moment of deepest unconsciousness, the monitoring equipment would show impossible readings. Her brain waves would split into multiple overlapping patterns, as if several versions of her consciousness were occupying the same skull simultaneously. The cameras captured something even more terrifying. For brief flickers lasting milliseconds, her body would appear translucent, and through it, ghostly images of different rooms, different furniture, different versions of her bedroom would shine through. Sarah theorized the unthinkable. Every time humans entered deep sleep, their consciousness would briefly disconnect from their timeline, allowing parallel universes to merge and blend. Upon waking, people would find themselves in a slightly different universe than the one they'd fallen asleep in, but their memories would be overwritten to match the new timeline, making them believe everything had always been this way. Except something in Sarah's brain chemistry was different. She was retaining memories from previous timelines, experiencing the terrifying awareness that each morning brought her to a fundamentally different reality. Desperate for answers, Sarah stopped sleeping. For 3 days, she kept herself awake with medication and caffeine, and the universe remained stable. No changes occurred. Her scars stayed the same, her memories didn't shift, and the world maintained its consistency. But on the 4th day, her body collapsed from exhaustion, and she fell into an involuntary, deep sleep that lasted 14 hours straight. When Sarah woke, the world had transformed catastrophically. She was no longer in her apartment but in a massive laboratory facility she'd never seen before. Dozens of other people surrounded her, all lying on medical beds, all waking up simultaneously with the same expression of absolute terror. A woman in a white coat approached her, and Sarah recognized her own face, but aged by perhaps 20 years. This older Sarah spoke with calm authority, explaining the horrifying truth that would redefine everything. Parallel universes didn't just merge during sleep. Sleep was humanity's defense mechanism against the merge. The human brain had evolved the ability to enter unconsciousness specifically to protect consciousness from the constant reality blending that occurred naturally in the multiverse. Every night, countless parallel universes would attempt to occupy the same space, but sleeping minds would create a protective barrier, allowing only minor, unnoticeable changes to seep through. This kept people psychologically intact and prevented the complete dissolution of individual identity. But Sarah's brain mutation had broken that barrier. By staying awake for 4 days, she'd experienced the full force of the universal merge while conscious, and it had pulled her completely out of her original timeline into one where humanity had discovered this truth decades ago. In this timeline, governments had built merge sanctuaries, facilities where people could sleep under controlled conditions to minimize timeline drift. But the older Sarah revealed the ultimate horror: the merge wasn't random. Something was directing it. Something intelligent and vast that existed across all parallel realities simultaneously. The entity had been slowly pulling specific versions of specific people from countless timelines, gathering them in consolidated realities for a purpose nobody understood. Sarah's mutation wasn't an accident. She'd been selected, tagged by this multiversal intelligence to retain her memories across merges so she could serve as a witness, a recorder of the process. Thousands of other awake ones like her existed in this timeline, all people who'd been pulled from their original realities and could remember the journey. The older Sarah led her to a massive window overlooking a vast chamber where hundreds of thousands of sleeping people lay in suspended animation. These were the ones who'd refused to accept the truth, who'd chosen to sleep permanently rather than face the terrifying knowledge that their identity, their memories, and their entire existence was being slowly dismantled and reconstructed by an incomprehensible cosmic force that treated individual human consciousness like data to be reorganized. But then the older Sarah smiled, and it was a smile that didn't reach her eyes. She explained that Sarah hadn't been pulled into a different timeline at all. She'd been pulled into the source timeline, the original universe from which all parallel realities had branched, and the entity orchestrating the merges wasn't external. It was humanity itself, or rather, what humanity would eventually become millions of years in the future. Advanced humans had achieved the ability to exist across all timelines simultaneously and had been reaching backward through time, gathering the most useful versions of each person from every parallel reality, optimizing humanity across infinite universes. Sarah wasn't a victim. She was a candidate for transcendence, one of the few whose consciousness was strong enough to survive the merge process with memories intact. The eternal sleep of billions was necessary to harvest their quantum consciousness data to fuel the ascension of the few who could handle the truth. Every night, when people slept, they weren't just merging timelines, they were being slowly uploaded, piece by piece, into the collective consciousness of future humanity. And Sarah had just been given the choice: resist and maintain her individual identity until it dissolved naturally, or surrender to the merge and become part of something infinite and eternal, losing everything that made her Sarah Chen, but gaining existence across every possible reality that ever was or could be.